Hello, this is Dr. Garrett Castleberry, Associate Professor and Program Director of Communication, Media, and Ethics at Mid-America Christian University. I'm here with a supplemental readings check-in for COM 4103, Special Topics in Media Studies. Our special topic in this go-round is an introduction to film survey course. As noted previously, our course is broken into units, and each unit emphasizes a distinct genre of filmmaking. And a question we are investigating is there such thing as a distinct genre? And that is a playful way to explore the medium of film through a number of facets. We have our screenings that we work through each week. We have our primary texts, like the one over my shoulder, Rick Altman's film genre. And we also have some opportunities to learn more about additional scholarship or research into each film. And that is the purpose of this video. We are ending our adventure genre unit, and with that we screened Raiders of the Lost Ark as a capper to our genre over that. In addition to the lecture podcast, which you all receive directly, I have a quick preview of some supplemental readings that I uncovered in my own archaeological dig into the history of research for Raiders of the Lost Ark. And thus, our goal with each of these videos is to introduce varying types of scholarship or research into the themes we're covering. And so I just want to talk about each one of these pieces that I uncovered, and perhaps if you all are interested in further readings, you'll be able to locate those as well. So this was a fun week. I found sources from a diverse spectrum in comparison to the special issue on Casablanca. And the first piece that I want to talk about was originally published in the Quarterly Review of Film Studies, the fall 1982 issue, and it has been archived online since then. Title is Mr. Jones Goes to Washington, Myth and Religion in Raiders of the Lost Ark by Frank P. Tomasulo. And again, this appeared in the fall 82 issue of QRFS. And so what Tomasulo, the author, investigates, or rather performs, is a combination analysis of the feature we screened in class. And he's interested in two areas of dissection. One is arguably the most common when approaching the narrative themes of the Indiana Jones series or the Star Wars series, much broader, bigger topic, and that is George Lucas's use of myth-making formulas to satisfy the narrative of this action adventure feature. And so what I did when I was going through it was I was looking at his two areas of emphasis. One was examining the film for its myth components. The other was examining the film for its ideological components. And when we're talking about ideology or ideological analysis, we're talking about analyzing a text or cultural artifact against the cultural values, or a set of cultural values. They could be a set from the present, the place and time in which an essay is written, or the place and time in which a text like Raiders is released, which is what Tomasulo does, or rather performs. And so I thought it would be interesting to track and see how consistent the critique was throughout the article. And so what I did was I was highlighting green for mythological analysis and yellow for ideological analysis. And you can do whatever you want anytime you're looking at research, but it's just what I chose to do. And so as I went through the article, we notice a nice comparison and contrast between myth versus ideological analysis. Mythic analysis versus ideological analysis. And actually, it's a pretty consistent and thus nicely written essay. This is arguably the harshest critique of the film we viewed this week, and the author goes to great detail to critique heavily the film, and it would be interesting to hear if you all buy into these criticisms, or if you find them fair, or is the author perhaps making a point beyond the text itself, right? Some kind of additional commentary that perhaps is read into by the author. Next, I want to briefly mention the essay Raiders of the Lost Ark, Totem and Taboo by Andrew Gordon. This appeared in the journal Extrapolation, volume 32, number 3. It was released in 1991. Yes, so still before all of you were born. It follows the footsteps of the other, paying a close attention to the hero's journey arcs and some of that kind of mythological footwork that the film performs. And like the previous essay, they both lean on some of Sigmund Freud's work, all right? So some Freudian psychology baked in to the analysis, all right? And you do get a pretty strong reading of the text using these terms, totem and taboo, to understand how the film operates at a mythological level, but perhaps at a psychological level in terms of the work that it's doing, maybe even not only in the narrative with the characters, but perhaps on the audiences. All right, moving right along. Third, I uncovered this essay. It is titled, and it's a long one, so bear with me, Serial Narrative, Intertextuality, and the Role of Audiences in the Creation of a Franchise, an analysis of the Indiana Jones saga from a cross-media perspective by Manuel Hernandez Perez and Jose Gabriel Ferreras Rodriguez. All right, excellent pair of scholars from the University of Murcia, Spain. And this article was released in Mass Communication and Society, volume 17, from 2014. And so these co-authors investigate the series, and they read it using, show us a little arrow here, a kind of tripod formula that is really just fancy speak for a mixed methods or multi-methods approach to performing analysis of a text. And they refer to these as 3 axis points or axes, right? And essentially I reworded these to simplify it. And my interpretation of these of what they are saying in each of their axis points is that they're performing a formal textual analysis, a context or genre-based analysis, and then finally an audience or reception analysis. And it doesn't discount any of the work. In fact, it's quite entertaining to look at the road they take. They compare cross-media analysis to a more popular variation, transmedia storytelling, or transmedia analysis, which draws its inspiration from the work of Henry Jenkins. And it's a worthy journey. And what they get to do, it being an updated to the 2014 time period, is we have that chance to see the 4th film in the series incorporated into the research. Whereas our first article only covers the first film, the second article was written late enough to encompass each of the 3 in the original trilogy, and then this third piece from Spain, and it incorporates the entire series to date anyway. Finally, I added this piece. It's a little bit tertiary, outside the boundaries of Raiders of the Lost Ark, but it has to do with its co-creator, George Lucas, and and Steven Spielberg, and in the nature of what the Indiana Jones movies plus some others did culturally to change the face of Hollywood as we know it. And it's titled George Lucas, Out of Love, Divorce, Darkness, and Reception in the Origin of PG-13 by Richard Ravalli. And this is from the Historian, and at least the online copy that I obtained through library resources is dated at 2016. But I was trying to find some further research to see if it was from an earlier time or not. Regardless, it's a fascinating account, because what we have here is part of that story of how these movies and some of their darker toned themes and occurrences and some of the visual content that's depicted on screen helped, or rather pushed Hollywood to recognize a need to develop a more intermediary rating for film. I think in the 1970s and the 1980s, you saw the limits of the PG being pushed as filmmakers were testing boundaries, and a result of that is that you might have young children going to a film that's arguably not suitable for them, and the PG just was no longer holding that option. So the advent was PG-13. But what was it about the personal, the human parts of their lives that was encouraging such dark expressions in their art, in their communique to mass audiences? And that's a much deeper and richer story in history that you can explore independently, and perhaps consider anytime you're researching film or writing about film for either a genre journal or the special projects topic. And there is one final selection here, and we're grateful to our compatriot in this course journey, Scott McMurray, who's always got his head on the swivel for new materials, and he's a bookworm that loves spelunking, not unlike Indiana Jones. And he was at a bookstore recently and came across this vintage model from Star Wars to Indiana Jones, the best of the Lucasfilm archives, from Mark Kodavaz and Shinji Hata. All right, and so this is a book from the early 90s that it's more of a studio produced type of work. And where it benefits us is the chapter that I was interested in from this text really does explore the props and the practical sets and models used to create what is referred to as the mise en scène of a film. That is, the elements that are pulled together collectively to display a world, a diegetic world, a fantasy narrative type of space on screen for which the characters can inhabit. And it's an exciting book if you're into props and the things that help bring a movie to light. And certainly a film like Raiders of the Lost Ark is absolutely full to the brim with beautiful props and set design. And so hopefully there's opportunity there to explore that. That's one of many themes you could be again considering for films that you choose to write about or genres you're interested in reporting on for this course. That's a look at our supplemental readings that you may be able to locate as well for our weekly screening on Raiders of the Lost Ark in the action adventure genre, Unit 1 of Com 4103, Special Topics in Media Studies. Thank you.